I'm back on the home farm. It's October 25th. It's my first morning hunt of the season, which usually is a pretty good sit, because usually it's coupled with a pretty good cold snap or a nice little cold front that moved in. And unfortunately, that's not the case this year. It's like 62 degrees right now. I've been itching to get a morning hunt in, and we just haven't had the weather. And we haven't had great conditions to get into a couple of the spots that I really wanted to try for a late October morning hunt. And, you know, this is historically a really good area for a good morning sit in the pre-rut, the way this stand sets up. There's a cow right underneath me taking a dump. The buck right here. But the flared buck, who is one of the two target bucks on this property, is bedded 29 yards from me right now. I didn't expect to be put in this situation, but I knew it would likely happen at some point. We've kind of talked about it, and I've thought a lot about this. You know, if this deer offered up a point blank shot, we probably should take it. We'll see what he does. That was a really cool encounter with the flared buck. he stood up and just kind of stretched and shook the morning dew off and kept flicking his tail, totally comfortable. Where he was at right there, I wouldn't have taken that shot anyway. I mean, he was in the middle of all those briars and that goldenrod, and there was a bunch of other shrubs in there that he was bedded in. And that would have been a sketchy shot to try to take anyway. I mean, literally, you would be guessing where his body was half the time. I watched him bed down again after he stood up and stretched for, I don't know, probably 10 minutes or so. Slipped down out of the tree, totally clean. He never even looked back my way. Yeah, it was awesome to see him. He's a beautiful buck. It's really cool to get that footage. I mean, most of the time for me, shooting him with the camera is just as good as shooting him with my bow. I chalk that up to a successful hunt for sure whenever I can get some awesome footage of a mature deer like that. So it's October 29th, and the conditions are unbelievable. It's really unseasonably cool for October. The temperature right now I think is 38, feels like 32, and there's a pretty good northwest wind at I think 12-13 miles an hour. So this is going to set up really well to go hunt this new spot that Jonathan and I got set up last night. I just wanted to give a quick little update and touch on kind of what's going on and what I'm going to try and do here in a little bit, because I don't think, one, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to bring this big camera in with me tonight, because they're talking about a good amount of rain moving in here in the next hour or so again, and it's supposed to continuously rain basically throughout the evening. Two, I'm just going to be so tight to where these deer have been coming out of this bedding area that when I get up in the stand, I don't want to be doing a lot of talking, and I don't really want to be doing a lot of moving around or anything like that. So yeah, it was the 27th. I went out after work and I sat a spot that I set up in the bottom of this draw on this small permission farm where this Big 10 is at. I went in there and I almost got skunked. It's hard to see from this spot. It sits in this bottom and the field kind of rises up in front of you, and there's a little bit of terrain, a little bit of rolling terrain with the field. So it's hard to see deer that come out on the other side of that field. So the next morning, which was yesterday morning, I had a northwest wind. It was actually west-northwest, so it was just about perfect to go into this spot that we call the pond dam. Had another really slow hunt. Only saw one deer feeding in the draw below me, and that was a little button buck. After that hunt, I wanted to go check all the cameras on that property before I got out, so I went around and checked them all. The night that I was hunting in the different stand in the bottom, facing the other direction, I couldn't see this field, which is up top from where I was positioned. And he was out there basically probably right after I got set up in the tree. And just like most of the deer do when they come out of that bedding area, they go right to that low spot in that cornfield, right to that little inside corner. And there's a tree line there where I've wanted to get a stand since last season, really. And even the night that I came out after work, when the front moved through, when I sat in that bottom, I even thought to myself that I was going to go on that tree line and sit on the ground. Had I gone with my gut and went and sat on the ground, I probably would have got, you know, a 20-yard shot at this deer on October 27th. Needless to say, we were scrambling yesterday, the 28th. We were like, okay, we've got a good wind for right now. Let's get in there and get a stand up. We had, like I said, we had a couple trees picked out. So yesterday, Jonathan and I went into a different permission farm to trim out a stand that he just hung in a cedar tree. When we got done trimming it out, we went to this permission farm that the Big 10 was on, got that stand hung, got some lanes cut, got out, got back to the truck, got all dressed, got the camera, got the bow. Jonathan was going to sit with me. He was taking a small stand in to hang in the same tree. And we got in there and it started raining. And it started raining pretty hard, which
That wasn't going to deter me, but then I started to check the wind because the wind basically shut off on us. And it was doing all sorts of wacky stuff. Whenever the wind died, it was pulling back into that bedding area, and then sometimes it was swirling and just pulling down into that low spot of the field. I just told Jonathan, we got to get out of here. I mean, just didn't feel comfortable sitting there. The last thing I want to do is mess this deer up. That catches everything up and brings us to right now, today. There's a lot of new developments going on. We've got some big shooters showing up on this other new piece of permission. Jonathan's heading over there tonight. I am gonna head back to this this set that we hung yesterday on this tree line, tucked in close to this bedding area. And like I said, the wind should be perfect. Everything should be super wet, so I'll be able to get in very quiet and clean with any luck. Possibly get an eye on this big deer tonight.
I'm nervous already. The last thing I want to do is let any of these deer smell me. I obviously don't want to spook him, but I don't want to spook any deer coming out of this bedding area. They're just so comfortable over here. Just gonna sit here and hope for the wind to stay up and stay consistent. It's supposed to, but the rain is also supposed to stay consistent the rest of the evening, so hopefully he shows. And if he doesn't, it's just another hunt. Back in the same stand that I had the encounter with him last night. I had him right here along this fence line at, boy, probably 50 yards. I thought for sure that they were going to come right down here and I was going to get my opportunity, but they didn't. I have no idea where they went, and the only place they could have gone is straight north, where I wouldn't have seen what they did. Luckily, today we have maybe even better conditions than last night. The wind, you can probably hear, is pretty strong. It's still about 13, 15 mile an hour, west-northwest. So it's casting my scent back over my shoulder this way, away from the bedding area, and away from where these deer are going to be coming out, if they come out over here tonight. Hopefully they'll decide to come this way and feed into this cornfield rather than whatever they did last night. just appeared out of nowhere. I just looked back to my right, and I could see a brown body standing right there. He was behind that sycamore tree out there. Didn't even have to put the binos on him. I knew it was him. As wide as he was looking right this direction. Then he turned his head and he was just staring out into the cornfield. I think he was just looking out in the cornfield to see if there was any does out there. I ranged that stuff down there. When he started to walk through that low spot, it was like 57, 58 yards, so he was probably about 60 yards when he went through there. I'm sure he's been on his feet cruising around for a little while with the conditions the way they are, and you know, he had his mouth wide open. Once he saw that there was no deer out here, that pretty much sealed the deal right there, and he turned and worked back that way. So I'm hoping that there's some does back in there that are going to decide to come feed this direction tonight, and if they do, maybe he'll loop around and come back out here and kind of nudge him around a little bit.